This is Discipleship Evangelism. Let me go and introduce this for the CD. Discipleship Evangelism, and we're in hour 3, but this is, I think, lesson 4. And we are going to be talking about the power of godly relationships. Do you believe that a godly relationship can have power? Well, we've talked in other classes about the prayer of agreement, the power of agreement. Well, friendship or godly relationships also can release power. All right, so this lesson was written by Don Crow, and I encourage you to read it, but as is my habit, I am going to give you complimentary material. And again, let me reiterate this, that what I'm sharing with you in these DE classes is the way I would approach this if I were going to go do this somewhere. And I would encourage you to find your comfort zone as well in these lessons. A lot of people just go through them exactly as they are written. And probably if I was a new teacher just starting out, I would do that. But then as time goes by and you become more comfortable with the material, you can add your own perspectives and your own thoughts and make it yours. And I would encourage that. The more you teach, the more you learn. The one that gets the most blessed in this Bible school is me, because I am continually giving, and in my giving I am continually getting. And my notes, I have to rewrite them every now and then because I have so many scribbles of new things that I get. And so every year is a little bit different, but what a blessing to be in a position to share the Word continually, and in that sharing, I keep getting blessed, keep getting more and more. So get out there, find somebody, even if it's just your dog, and teach them DE. You go through the material and bless your pet, bless somebody. Amen. So we're going to talk about godly relationships and the power of godly relationships. So I broke this up into 4 questions. That's the way I want to do it this time. And the first question is, how important are our relationships? Let's go to Proverbs 13:20. How important are our relationships? Proverbs 13:20. Make sure I've got that right. It says, "He that walks with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed." He that walks with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools will be destroyed. All right, now, I'm going to pick at you a little bit today, but it's all in love. And just to help us stimulate a little bit of thinking on our part. But who do you walk with? Who do you walk with? What kind of people do you associate with? What kinds of relationships attract you? Where do you like to spend most of your time, or with whom do you like to spend most of your time? What kind of relationships are the ones that you enjoy? There's a quote, I love quotes, but here's one I like a lot. It says, "When the character of a man is not clear to you, look at his friends." When the character of a man is not clear to you, look at his friends. You can tell a lot about a person by who they hang out with and who they spend their time with. And I'm not saying to judge, I'm just saying you can evaluate and discern where someone is at by the kinds of friends that they have and by the kinds of people they like to be with. And so it says, a wise man, he who walks with the wise will be wise. And it goes on to say, again, where am I? Proverbs 13:20, "He that walks with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools," doesn't say he'll have a good time, it says he'll be destroyed. He'll be destroyed. So relationships are extremely important to our lives, and in fact, life is nothing but a series of relationships. Everything we do, unless you're a hermit and living in a cave somewhere, your life is composed of relationships, and those relationships will come and go. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But let's go to another one here. Let's go to 2 Corinthians 6. We'll see an exhortation here from the New Testament. 2 Corinthians 6. And we'll go to verse 14. Paul says, "Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers." What does it mean to be yoked? To yoked means to be cooperating with, working together in the same direction, walking together in agreement. Be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship has righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion has light with darkness? And what concord has Christ with Belial? Belial, I have this written down in my notes, Belial is a term used to characterize or embody immense wickedness or iniquity. Immense wickedness or iniquity. So again, what communion has light with darkness? What concord has Christ with wickedness? Or what part has he that believes with an infidel? And what agreement has the temple of God with idols? For you are the temple of the living God. As God has said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. What's being said here is that Paul is concerned for relationships, any whatever kind of relationship, but any relationship that calls you to be joined to someone who represents darkness, who represents wickedness, who represents the things of the world, he's saying, don't be yoked together. Don't be unequally yoked together. Another word for Belial is yokeless. Yokeless. Now think about this. What does Jesus say to us? And I don't have the verse for right here right now, but it says, take my yoke upon you. Belial, meaning wickedness, means yokeless. Satan is yokeless in the sense that he unyoked himself from the things of God and was cast out of heaven. And when you join yourself or you yoke yourself to someone who is representing darkness or representing some kind of wickedness, you have yoked yourself with the yokeless, so to speak. You have joined them. They haven't joined you. You have joined them. And that's the issue that's being spoken of here. So let's go back and go through a little bit. He says, be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. How would we do that? I'm in verse 14. Be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. Unequal meaning you're the one that's yoked to the Lord, but now you're trying to yoke yourself to someone who is yokeless. They're not yoked to the Lord, so you're unequal. Well, we're talking about friendships. We're talking about business relationships. We're talking about anything where you spend your time with people in relationships. Now, there's different kinds of time that we'll talk about, but I'm talking about your lifetime, the time that is a quality, important time. I'm not talking about a casual situation where you happen to find yourself with someone. No, I'm talking about who you decide and determine to spend time with. Are they representing light or are they representing darkness? All of these things are going to have an impact on us. Oftentimes we feel like, well, I'm trying to evangelize them, and actually what's happening is they're evangelizing you back into the world, back into the things of darkness. So he goes on to say, be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship has righteousness with unrighteousness, and what communion has light with darkness? You can't have communion with people of darkness unless you are being evangelized back into darkness. You say, well, I'm trying to win them. Well, there is a time for that, but that isn't communion. We're talking about relationship. Communion kinds of joining ourselves with someone. Evangelization is a different kind of time that's being spent. All right? What concord has Christ with Belial? What part has he that believes with an infidel? And what agreement has the temple of God with idols? For you are the temple of the living God. Are there some temples in here today? Okay? We are the temple, and individually we are all part of the temple of God, and so there is a holiness that is expected. Okay, for you are the temple of the living God, as God says, I will dwell in them, walk in them, I will be their God, they shall be my people. Wherefore, come out from among them and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and I will be a father unto you. You shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. Let's go on to the next verse. Having therefore these promises, what promises? That he would be our Father and walk among us. Okay? Having therefore these promises, dearly beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of God. Now and Andrew points out, that's not talking about our born-again spirit, but that's talking about this light and darkness, this communion with light and darkness. Cleanse your spirit. In other words, don't let your spirit become yoked together with someone who is of darkness. You can't have the temple of God and idolatry or wickedness. Someone that is not yoked, you can't walk together. He who walks with wise men shall be wise. He who walks with fools shall be destroyed. It doesn't say the fool gets turned into a wise man. It says that the one that's walking with the fool gets destroyed. So it's the reverse evangelization that's taking place. All right, let's go on to a second question. How can we or how should we classify our relationships? How should we classify our relationships? So I've come up with 2 kinds of relationships and 3 classifications. This is just me, and you can make this different. But 2 kinds are temporary or seasonal. We'll call them seasonal. Seasonal relationships, and the other kind obviously would be long-term relationships. What would be a long-term relationship? Marriage, hopefully. All right? That is to be a long-term relationship. Family, long-term relationship. What would be a seasonal relationship? Okay, a job relationship could be seasonal. Okay, sometimes, and I'm hearing church and school and things of that nature, that's good. Some friendships are seasonal. I can think back over my life, and most, if not all of my friendships have been seasonal. Because they were important at a point in time, and then as that time ended and the Lord took us one way and took them the other way, then that friendship wasn't, though we are still friends and we may have contact, it was a seasonal relationship that edified each of us, but now we're both doing different things. And so then you enter into a new season with new friends. Now I grew up, my father was in the military, so I grew up living and moving all of the time, and then I became a missionary and I moved all the time. And so some of you have probably lived in the same town all your life and you have lifelong friends. I've never really had that, so I may be coming from this different perspective. But be that as it may, even some of your lifelong friends go through seasons. And you may have been best friends in first grade, and then you may have drifted apart until high school, and then you were best friends again, and now, it depends on the seasons of life that we go through. So we have long-term friendships, we have seasonal friendships, these things come and go. So I break that down then into 3 classifications. We have friends, which we'll talk about here in a little bit more. We have family, and then we have people that we have communion with, or I call it fellowship. Family, friends, and fellowship. Family, friends, and fellowship. Well, family, we are with all the time, usually, unless we've moved away from each other. In fact, here's another good quote. I like quotes. Here we go. God gave us our relatives. Thank God we can choose our friends. Okay. Anyway, words of wisdom. So, but family is something, in fact, at this season of my life, now I can look back to in seasons of my life when friends were extremely important, and when we were a young married couple and we had young kids, we were in home churches and we had tons of young couples with kids, and we spent all of our time with other people and with friends, and those relationships now have turned out to be usually seasonal. But at this point in my life now, I'm a grandfather. I have 2 little granddaughters, and I have a grandson that's about to be born any hour now. Since we're just waiting for this thing to happen. And so my whole emphasis in this season of my life is family. I don't really have friends, close friends right now outside of my family. That's where all of my interest is. All of my time is spent. Everything that we do with my wife is all geared around family. That's a new season. That it's new for me, because before this it was all about friends. And now it's not. And that's just the season I'm in. I don't have really a whole lot of other time for other things. So we're all going to have different kinds of relationships, but the key here is what do these relationships mean to us? How are they impacting our lives? Are they drawing us back into darkness, or are they edifying us? Are we edifying them? Is it a codependent thing where you're sucking the life out of somebody or they're sucking the life out of you? What are your relationships doing to you? Because your destiny, so to speak, can be, we'll say, evaluated by the kinds of relationships that you have and the kinds that you feel are important. And ungodly relationships, whether you think so or not, are doing damage to you. People that you want to be with, if they only are looking to have a good time and there's never any edification in the Lord, that's doing damage to you. That's why Paul says, be ye separate, come out. Haven't you been called into the kingdom of light? Aren't you part of the kingdom of God? Aren't you a child of God? Then why would you still be even interested in being yoked together with people of darkness? If that's your case, then it's something you should evaluate. So let's look at this. Let's go to Colossians 3. We could learn a lot if we would just be honest with ourselves and just take some time to meditate and be transparent with ourselves and say, why do I like this person? Why do I like to spend time with them? Because they are obviously not seeking the Lord. They're obviously not concerned about the things of God, and yet I enjoy their company. Go ahead and be honest. Take an evaluation of this. Because in being honest, you're going to see your own heart, and it's going to be revealed to you. There must be something amiss in my heart to be attracted to someone who isn't attracted to God. Why am I in that position? Why is that attractive to me? And at the root of that, if you'll be honest, you'll come down to the place where you'll see that your relationship with God really isn't true. It's false. Because if it were true, it would satisfy you. And it would draw you to people of like love, like faith in Jesus. So, like I said, I'm going to mess around with you a little bit, but as in love, I'm just wanting you to be honest. You're not going to get anywhere in life if you're not honest with yourself. If you lie to yourself, you might as well just give up now. So let's be honest and evaluate your relationships and ask yourself, why am I attracted to such and such a person or this group of people? Why? Because they are obviously, if this is the case, they obviously aren't seeking the things of God, and yet I enjoy being with them. Why do you enjoy being with them? And why don't you enjoy being with people that are seeking the Lord? If you have a choice between getting together with someone to pray for the school or pray for people or whatever, or the choice of going and hanging out at a bar, and you feel like you'd rather go be at the bar, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. Be honest, okay? I need to take stock here. I'm attracted to that, I'm not attracted to the other. There must be something amiss in my heart. And I don't like that. Maybe you like that. I don't like that. If my heart's amiss, I want to get it fixed. All right, Colossians 3, 16 through 21. Talking about three kinds of relationships. And I don't know if these might be kind of intermingled, but we're talking about family, friends, and fellowship. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your hearts to the Lord. And whatsoever you do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father by him. Wives, submit yourselves to your husbands. This is family relationship, as is fit in the Lord. Major statement there, as is fit in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives. Be not bitter against them. Long-term family relationship. Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing to the Lord. Family relationship. Fathers, provoke not your children to anger, lest they be discouraged. Servants, obey in all things. Those of you that have servants, or maybe you are one, all right? Obey in all things your masters according to the flesh, not with eye service. Whatever you do, verse 23, whatsoever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not unto men. Well, this whole passage basically is talking about family relationships, but in verse 16, we'll go back, it says, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. This could apply to any kind of relationship. So Paul constantly and continually in his letters, he's talking about how we relate to each other. And he's realizing that people that, if you are, and you'll notice 1 Corinthians, Jude, other places, there were tares among the wheat in the church. People were coming in to spy out their liberty. People were taking part in their love feasts. In 1 Corinthians 11, Paul says, I hear there are divisions and there must be heresies among you, that those which are approved can be made manifest. he talks about the disorder in the Lord's Supper. There were people that in the church that were tares. They were versus wheat. They were evil. They were not there for the right intentions. And so relationships, this is why he's saying, come ye out, be ye separate. Don't let yourself get contaminated with these kinds of yokeless people that are only going to bring you down and destroy you. Let's go to Amos 3:3. If anybody can find Amos. This is when everyone waits for the thing to go on the screen, right? Okay. But not me. All right. Amos 3:3. Can two walk together except they be agreed? Can two walk together? Now, I'm not talking about casual acquaintances. I'm talking about who you spend your time with. And you can say, well, I'm trying to be an example to them. That's fine if the relationship is built on the fact that you are the leader and they are the follower. But if you are walking together, then you must be in agreement. And light is trying to have fellowship with darkness. Now, I'm talking about who you spend time with, not who you run into and have a coffee with. I'm talking about who you spend time with habitually. The people you hang out with, the people you spend your free time with. Who are they? Because if you're walking together, you must be in agreement. And they're not going to be in agreement with you if you're light and they're darkness. They're not. So you must be in agreement with them. And that's what this is saying. So this is the friendship level of relationship. Who are your friends? Who do you hang out with? Let's go to Proverbs 17:17. Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A friend loves at all times. See, when someone is really a friend to you, they are going to be there for you no matter what. I had one of my closest friends, and this was a seasonal thing because of our situations. We were both called to missions. We were both sent out of the same church. Our families were sent together to Guatemala for a year to study Spanish. And then our destination after that was Chile, and their destination was the jungles of Costa Rica on the border of Nicaragua. They were going to a very rural jungle ministry. You had to get there by boat, actually. And so, but during that year in Guatemala, when we were both studying Spanish, we became extremely close friends. And when I got sick with hepatitis, he was there every day bringing me stuff to read and visiting with me. And for a good part of that year before I got sick, we would get up at 5 every morning and meet. We lived at different parts of town in this little mountain town in Guatemala. And we would go meet on the side of a hill, and we'd pray together for an hour every morning, just interceding for what God had for each of our families and for the future and things of that nature. We became extremely close friends. And even though we went on to Chile and they went on to Costa Rica, we were able to stay somewhat in email contact for a long time. And when my father suddenly passed away, I think in 1999, and I was in Chile, and I got the phone call, and so I had to fly back to the States. And my friend in the jungles of Costa Rica, somehow he got word of this, and while I'm driving from Dallas down to San Antonio or down to Austin, my friend calls me on the phone while I'm in the car, and I'm thinking, man, what a blessing this is. What a wonderful person that would take the time in the jungle to hook up all of his apparatus to make a phone call, international phone call, to find me in my car driving down, to see my mother, and just to console me. That's a friend. There are people like that. Now, our paths have gone different directions, and they're in South Texas, and we're up here, so there's not that much contact, but that's someone I could count on no matter what. There are other friends that we had, very close friends in Chile. He was a professional basketball player from the States, actually. They were just here a few weeks ago. They spent Christmas with us. And we were very close friends with them, especially our wives were extremely close. We'd go watch his basketball games and all. And but then, they came back to the States and we went our way, and so we haven't had that much contact over the years. And yet, just 2 or 3 weeks before Christmas, they said, hey, we want to come to Colorado for Christmas. And we said, well, come stay with us and have Christmas with us. And so all these years have passed by, and yet it was like we just picked right up where we left off. You know, that's a neat thing, and yet they have their lives, we have our lives. So they're seasonal, and yet there are some people that are just part of your life, and you can pick up right where you leave off with them, even though years may go by. So there are friends like that. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. All right, let's go on to another one, Acts 2:42. We'll talk about fellowship. Acts 2:42 says, "And they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship and in the breaking of bread and in prayers." Now, how many of you realize that you aren't going to be friends with everyone, but you will have contact, communion, and or fellowship with a lot of people in your life? And you may not even like them. Am I talking to anybody here? Everybody's trying to look all holy. All right. You may not even get along. You wouldn't pick them out for your friend. But there are times of fellowship with people that may not be someone you would normally be with. But that's a different kind of relationship, a different level of relationship. It's not a friend, it's not a family, but it's a fellowship relationship. It's spontaneous or it's momentary, it's now and then, and yet they're part of the body of Christ. And so there is that kind of thing where you have contact, you have communion, you spend time together in church or in Bible school. Many of these relationships here are the fellowship kind where you see each other in passing in school. Some long-term friendships are being established here. Some future families are being established here. Different kinds of relationships are happening here. But for most of you, after your 2 or 3 years, you'll go your separate ways and you probably won't ever see or hear from each other again. That's just the nature of this. But while you're here, you're in fellowship. Different kind of relationship. So we have all of these different things taking place. But the important thing is, who do you choose to spend time with? Who is it that you want to invest in and have them invest in you? Because this is what's taking place. It's an investment. And so you can make wise investments and you can make dumb investments. People that make dumb investments lose everything. People that make wise investments continue to increase. Well, friendship is an investment. And whether you realize it or not, hours spent with someone, something's being invested. There's some cross-pollination taking place here. You're investing time in your life. They're investing whatever they bring to the table. And if it's light and darkness, then you are losing your investment. You're losing time. He who walks with, fools shall be destroyed. All right? Anybody still with me? Let's go to Proverbs 18. Proverbs 18, 24. Proverbs 18:24 says, "A man that has friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother." What's the key to having friends? Being friendly. There's a lot of people that, and I understand, there are a lot of people that are lonely. There are a lot of people, in fact, I've heard people say to me in school, they did not feel welcome here until I happened to walk down the hall and just smile and say, "Hi, what's your name?" And then all of a sudden it was a breakthrough. See, we don't know everybody and what all their backgrounds are. But there are some people here that in the midst of this are lonely. They may not have ever had a close friend. And they've been here for 8 months and they may not still have a close friend. And so part of that is on them, so to speak, that they haven't shown themselves friendly. But the other part of that is on the rest of us to have not included some of these lonely people in our friendships, in our circle of friends. So it's a two-way street. But some people, they just aren't friendly, and so they don't attract friends. But in that case, what do we have in us? Don't we have the love of God in us? Can't we reach out and go the extra mile and be extra friendly to people that seem to be alone? There's some people in here that are very alone. and reach out to them. I try to meet all of you, and I've tried to stop and say hi to as many as I can and get to, learn your name, which is but I'm getting better. I'm remembering a lot of names, but there's so many. But I can't do that with everybody. There's 550 people on this campus. But you guys can do that, and you can draw people in. So bring people into your life. Bring people, again, it may just be a fellowship. It may not turn into a long-term friendship or even a seasonal friendship, but at least it can be fellowship. And include people in your circle of fellowship. There are some people that are in relationships here that they wish they weren't in, but that's the only one they've got going, so they're in it. And it may not be a healthy one. And so they need to be sought out, they need to be included, they need to be drawn into something that is healthier. So let's talk about that. Question 3, what is a godly relationship? What is a godly relationship? Let's go to Psalm 119:63. Psalm 119:63. Is that what I want? Yes, okay. I am a companion of all them that fear thee, of them that keep thy precepts. Question, what is a godly relationship? David says, I am a companion of all them that fear thee, of them that keep thy precepts. Who are you a companion of? Who are you a companion of? Now see, in Bible school, and I wasn't born yesterday, I know what goes on. And in Bible school, oftentimes, people will flock to people that are similar to them in their free time pursuits. And they will form little groups, and their free time pursuits will be probably not all that healthy, not all that spiritually edifying. Again, can two walk together except they be agreed? And again, be honest and evaluate, why are you attracted to that? How is that preparing you for your destiny, for your purpose in Christ? Is any of that even important to you? Is your purpose in Christ something that you're here to discover and grow in, or are you just here to have a good time? What's your motivation? And I'm not speaking condemnation. I'm just saying be honest about it and realize that there are more things taking place here than you may even understand. There are decisions are being, or we'll say paths are being set for your future by how you approach your present and who you spend time with. You are determining things for the future. So these are important decisions and who you're with. And David says, I am a companion of all those that fear thee, of them that keep thy precepts, a godly relationship. Let's go to Hebrews 10. Hebrews 10, 24, 25. Hebrews 10, 24. Let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching. Are your relationships one in which you can exhort freely and they can exhort you as well, stimulate you into better things? Or are your friendships not even talk about the things of God? See, who are you with? Who are you spending time with? And is it a relationship in which it's good to encourage each other? Let's go to Hebrews 3, 13 and 14. Hebrews 3, 13 and 14. It says, but exhort one another daily while it is called today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. Your relationships, your friendships, are they ones in which you can exhort and be exhorted to press on in the things of God and to beware of the deceitfulness of sin? So it says we are made partakers of Christ if we hold the beginning of our confidence steadfast unto the end. Well, what's the opposite of that then? We are made partakers of Christ if we hold, so if we don't, what's the opposite? We're not partakers of Christ. See? So how important are your relationships? Stimulating each other, exhorting one another. These are all important. What is a godly relationship? A godly relationship is one that inspires you and inspires the other person. Does your relationship inspire you? Does your friendship, does your group, do they inspire you to press on into the things of God? Are you inspiring them to press on into the things of God? Is that the kind of friendship you have? Now, I'm not against going out and having a good time. There's so much to do in this area, nature and hiking and activities. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in the time in which you are in communion or communication with this person, what are you talking about? Are you inspiring each other? Are you talking about the things of God? Are you talking about what you learned in Bible school? Are you talking about something that you've been praying about, something God showed you? Is it that kind of thing, or is it just all this carnal, trivial stuff? Because that's determining your future. See, our future is just, your present is made up of little tiny decisions, thousands of them, that were made in the past, that have put you the way you are, where you are. And your future now is being made by all these little bitty tiny decisions that you're making right now about who you spend time with, what you do with your time, how you manage things, what you think about, where you go. Those are little tiny decisions that are creating your future. And how you approach that is going to be, you'll look back a few years from now and say, thank the Lord I did it this way and not that way, because the person that I used to be with and spend time with, they went this way, and I decided that was no more unequally yoked. I'm going this way, and now look at their life, and look what God has done in my life. Relationships, the power of agreement, the power of godly relationships. Go to 2 Timothy 2:22. 2 Timothy 2:22. Paul says, "Flee also youthful lusts, but follow righteousness, faith, charity, peace, with them that call on the Lord." With them that call on the Lord out of a pure heart. Flee youthful lusts with them that call on the Lord out of a pure heart. Well, in other words, hang with people that are fleeing youthful lusts. Don't hang with people that are pursuing youthful lusts. Because that's destruction. That is going to sow destruction to your life. So what is a godly relationship? A godly relationship is one that inspires you. The one that exhorts you, the one in which you have transparency and you can receive correction. You can give correction. It's mutually edifying. You can pray together. You can talk about the things of God together. Those kinds of relationships are the ones that are going to make you have a future in the things of God. Some of the most important people in my life, people I patterned myself after. I saw things. See, I knew I had a purpose in God, and so I found relationships. I couldn't make close friends out of all of them because of distance and age difference and different things. But I still considered myself in relationship in the sense that I was looking at their life as an influence, as a pattern for me. I knew where I wanted to go. I knew how I wanted to be, how I wanted to turn out. And so I looked for someone, and I found several people that I got certain characteristics from them. One was a missionary in southern Mexico. He was kind of this Indiana Jones missionary. Really inspired me. Had his own little airplane, flew over the mountains witnessing to the Indians and doing all kinds of things. And I said, man, this guy, his family was down there, and he just had a tremendous ministry going on. So some of that I took as okay, this relationship, I had a relationship with him. It wasn't a close friendship because they were always in Mexico, but stayed in contact and gleaned from that relationship. I had another relationship with a guy that ministered to Cambodian refugees, and when we were in that season of our life, a lot of the things that I saw in him, I tried to incorporate into my life. And so on throughout my Christian life, I looked for people that I could pattern myself with because I wanted to be yoked together with people that had purpose. I wanted to be yoked with people that knew who they were and where they were going. And see, that's a decision all of us can make. Even though you may not have quality time with that person, you can still have a relationship that you can pattern after that person. And whatever time you get with them, because you found someone that knows who they are and where they're going in life, and so you can glean from that. Your purpose will be unique, but you can still glean from that and create your own identity and your own future by patterning yourself after other people. That's why Paul talks to Timothy, and actually, Campus Days, I'm going to talk quite a bit about Paul and Timothy God's given me a message about that. But learning to receive from other people, these are the relationships that profit. Can two walk together except they be agreed? Well, you can walk with someone. I'll say it this way, I walk with T.L. Osborne. I've never met T.L. Osborne. But that man's love, it just oozes out of him. And his books on healing and things like that, my favorite book of all time is Healing the Sick by T.L. Osborne. I mean, I feel like I know T.L. Osborne, though I've never met the man, and yet I have gleaned from that relationship. We are walking together, though he doesn't know I exist. And I can point out other men of God and other books and things where I have relationship via the book or the CD or what have you, and that's a relationship that edifies me. And so even though I may not have certain people in my life actually, but they are in my life spiritually. Does that make sense? And so you draw from that and you learn who you are, and that inspires you and exhorts you. And even if you can't find someone in your current present circumstances that you want to have that kind of time with, there are men of God and women of God around that you can do that with through their CDs and their books. You can learn, you can grow in that way. Amen? All right, is this blessing anybody today? Okay. What is an ungodly relationship? I have just a few minutes here. What is an ungodly relationship? That's the fourth question. 1 Corinthians 15:33. First Corinthians 15:33. Be not deceived, evil communication or evil, it doesn't mean communication as we mean it today, but sharing, corrupts good manners. An evil relationship an unhealthy relationship is going to bring you down. It is not going to help you push on and push up. It is going to drag you down. Any friendship that you have that is not stimulating you to move onward and upward in Jesus, but instead is becoming an anchor to you, that's one you probably should evaluate and perhaps terminate. Don't terminate the person, but terminate the relationship. Well, however you feel led. All right, let's go to James 4:4. James 4:4. You adulterers and adulteresses. Now, this isn't speaking right here specifically of sex, though that would certainly be included. But listen to this. Know ye not that friendship of the world is enmity with God, or you make yourself to be an enemy of God. Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of God. I go back to the earlier question. Who attracts you and why? What are you attracted to and why? Because if you're attracted to the world, you've just defined yourself. How? What are you? You're an enemy of God. You're an enemy of God, and he who walks with the foolish shall be destroyed. So, friendship with the world is enmity with God. Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of God. What kind of relationships are precious to you? What's important to you? How do you want to spend your time? What is your destiny? What is your purpose? How is that going to all develop with the friends that you have now? And I'm not suggesting that everybody here has bad friends. I'm just speaking generically on the whole. What is your future? If you were to look at your friends, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Okay, what if I were to look at your friends right now and how you spend your time, what's your future? What would I see? What would be the obvious conclusion that one would draw from that? This quote does not fit at all with what I just said. But I got to share it so that I get you smiling again. Show me a friend in need, and I'll show you a pest. So, okay. Somehow I thought that would fit. I don't know. All right, so relationships, friendships, they're important. There's some long-term ones, there's seasonal ones, there's just fellowship ones. But do an evaluation of your relationships and see how you can improve and find your purpose in Christ. Amen?